Hi there, Oliver. We're getting creative here. Remember the story that I read to you on Monday, Snail Crossing? We're making our own snails today. So if you don't have the materials we're using today, you can improvise with what you have at home. If you happen to have the watercolor cakes, you can use those. We're cheating today to be quick. I brought some watercolor tubes. That's liquid watercolor. At the end, we'll show you how to use other materials, whatever you have.
Good.
Now this idea isn't my own. Of course, I go on Pinterest a lot, and I found these little doodles using watercolor and Sharpie marker. So if you have Sharpie marker at home, you could ask your parents if it's okay to use it. If you don't have it, you could use something else like a crayon, a dark crayon. So this is what we're going to end up with. We're doing the little snails one at a time. So first step, this is wet on wet technique. So I'm just getting my big watercolor brush. And if you don't have brushes at home, when I was a child, I used to use anything, paper towel, Q-tips, whatever I could find. So I'm making a nice wet curved shape, and it's going to make your paper buckle. That's okay. It'll all come out in the end. There I go. Not a perfect circle, just giving it 2 washes. Okay, my other brush, my little brush, is going to pick up the color that I want. There's one of my favorites. So I'm just loading the brush, and there you go. That's wet on wet. You're just letting the paint do its thing and absorb into the paper. It will have a stained effect. And then what you need to do after you're done this step is you need to wait for it to dry completely before you put your doodle on. Now I'm going the side red on the color wheel, and I'm getting into some orange here. Don't go across the color wheel. If you remember your grade 1 science, you know what happens. Do you know what happens, Mrs. Brown?
Oh, I feel like I'm on the spot now.
Just say your last name.
I was going to say, I bet it turns the color brown.
It does.
That was what I was imagining.
Okay, now I'm going to slide this over so you can see what's happening. Oops, got messy. Now you can always go back in and add in more. Want a little more of that color. And now I'm just going to let it air dry. How are you doing,
Let's
Ms.
do a
Davis?
check-in with Miss Davis.
I'm having an adventure with the dark color that I put on
It
top.
is beautiful. So now Miss Davis is just going to let this dry.
And let it
It's
dry.
going to take about 15 minutes.
All right.
So we'll be back soon. So Mrs. Brown is ready. Her watercolor is dry, and she's ready to take her Sharpie and start putting in the shell and the little critter inside. So I have a few that I did ahead of time. No rules here. Think about patterns. Think about using your imagination. This isn't a scientific diagram of a snail. Have fun. There's another one I did. Okay, and of course you need to remember to let your paper dry before you go on with Sharpie. And again, if you don't have Sharpie, just use a dark crayon. So let's take a look at how things are going here. That's looking fantastic.
And
Mrs.
a couple
Brown.
of
Awesome.
eyes.
I can already imagine how this snail would talk. He could be in his own story. There's an idea. Once you make your snail, you can write a story about your snail, just like Snail Crossing. And I'm sure we would like to see these snails as you make them. Looks terrific.
Taking on a little personality of
Right.
his own.
Now you can put an outline around your painted shape. I like the effect when it's left off, but again, there's no rules. How do you feel about that?
I feel good.
Great.
It's my first snail.
So I'm just doing another one here, and I've prepared the paper ahead of time. And if you come closer, I want you to guess what I did. Watch, I just put the water on. Now I'm going to add the paint. And just see what happens. That's a really neat effect that you can use with watercolors.
That's really neat, Ms. Fowley.
Yeah. So I've got the spiral shape in there. Now I'm going to give it a little bit of green. That'll make teal. And then again, you'd let that dry and put in your doodle over top with a Sharpie.
Are you going to tell us what you did underneath, Ms. Fowley?
Sure, actually, watch where I move the work. I used a white wax crayon, and that's now a crayon resist. Yeah, and that's how I made this one.
Fun.
Yeah, so if you don't have watercolor at home, I thought, what do I have at my place? Well, because I love painting, I have lots of paint, but what if I didn't? I don't want to go out, I want to stay in and be healthy and safe, so I would just grab my crayons. I did wax crayon scribbles, layered it, and then I added in my doodle. Now I had to be a little careful because of course it resists the Sharpie, but I had to be patient and go over. This one turned out to be one of my favorites. This is a torn paper snail. So I just made my shape with ripped up pieces of paper I found in my recycle bin, and then I added the doodle over top. So I think it's time that you come and check out our art gallery. Right over here we've put all of the snails having a little gathering. Hopefully you have fun with this, and it's something you'll want to try more than one. Right, Mrs. Brown?
Yes,
Yes.
I did too.
And it's fun to try, big snails, little snails, and have fun with it. We hope to see some of your snails very soon. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Miss Fowley.